Jack's bachelor party had been planned for weeks. He had invited all of his closest friends to come celebrate his last night of freedom before getting married to Sarah. They started off with a fancy dinner at a trendy restaurant where they all enjoyed a nice steak and a few drinks. But the real party was just getting started. They headed to a popular nightclub where the music was loud and the drinks were flowing. Jack was having the time of his life, laughing and joking with his friends. He couldn't believe how lucky he was to have such amazing friends, and to be marrying Sarah, the woman of his dreams. But as the night wore on, things got wilder. One of Jack's friends suggested they head to a strip club, and before he knew it, they were all piling into a limo and heading to the seedy part of town. At the strip club, the guys bought drinks and made it rain with dollar bills as the strippers danced on stage. Jack was having a good time, but he wasn't interested in any of the women. That is until he saw her. She was different from the other strippers, with a wild look in her eyes and a body that seemed to defy gravity. She made her way over to Jack's table and introduced herself as Candy. They struck up a conversation, and before long, they were making out in a private booth. Jack knew he shouldn't be doing this, that he was engaged to Sarah and this was a huge mistake. But he couldn't resist Candy's seductive charms. They ended up back at his hotel room, and before he knew it, they were in bed together. As he lay there afterwards, Jack felt a sense of guilt and shame wash over him. He had just cheated on the woman he loved more than anything in the world. He knew he had to tell Sarah, but he didn't know how. The wedding was only a day away, and he didn't want to ruin everything. But he also knew that he couldn't keep the secret forever. Jack woke up on the day of his wedding with a heavy heart. He knew he had cheated on Sarah the night before, and the guilt was weighing on him. He hoped that he could put it behind him and move on. But the memory of what he had done kept creeping into his mind. As he got ready for the wedding, he couldn't help but feel like a fraud. He was putting on a suit and tie, pretending that everything was okay when in reality, he had betrayed the woman he loved. When he arrived at the church, he was greeted by his groomsmen, all of whom were in high spirits. They slapped him on the back and congratulated him, but Jack couldn't bring himself to smile. "You look nervous, man," said his best man Dave. "Don't worry, everything's gonna be great." Jack nodded, but his stomach was tied in knots. He just wanted to get through the ceremony and deal with the fallout afterwards. As Sarah walked down the aisle, Jack couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. She looked beautiful in her white dress, and he knew that he was the luckiest man in the world to be marrying her. But at the same time, he couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't deserve her. During the vows, Jack tried to focus on what he was saying, but his mind kept drifting. He couldn't stop thinking about what he had done, and the guilt was eating away at him. After the ceremony, there was a reception at a nearby hotel. Jack tried to put on a brave face, but he knew that he was just going through the motions. He danced with Sarah and smiled for the cameras, but he felt like a fraud. At one point, Sarah pulled him aside. "Jack, is everything okay?" she asked. "You seem distant?" Jack hesitated. He wanted to tell her everything, but he didn't want to ruin the day. "Yeah, I'm fine," he said, forcing a smile. "I'm just a little nervous, that's all." Sarah looked at him skeptically but didn't press the issue. Jack knew that he had to tell her the truth, but he didn't know when or how. The wedding day had turned into a nightmare, and he knew that things were only going to get worse. Jack and Sarah had planned a luxurious honeymoon to a tropical island. They had both been looking forward to it for months, but Jack couldn't shake the guilt he felt for cheating on her before the wedding. He hoped that the trip would help them reconnect, and that he could finally find a way to tell her the truth. As they settled into their private villa, Jack couldn't help but feel like a fraud. He was sitting on the beach with the woman he loved, but he had betrayed her, in the worst possible way. Sarah sensed that something was off and tried to get Jack to open up. "Jack, is everything okay?" she asked. "You've been distant ever since the wedding." Jack hesitated, not knowing how to tell her the truth. "I'm just tired from all the wedding planning," he said. Sarah didn't seem convinced but decided not to push the issue. As the days passed, Jack tried to enjoy the honeymoon, but he couldn't shake the feeling of guilt. They went on romantic walks on the beach, swam in the ocean, and enjoyed candlelit dinners. But Jack couldn't enjoy any of it. One night, as they were lying in bed, Sarah brought up the subject again. "Jack, I feel like there's something you're not telling me," she said. "Please, just be honest with me." Jack took a deep breath and decided to come clean. "Sarah, there's something I need to tell you," he said, looking at her with tears in his eyes.
"The night before the wedding, I cheated on you."
Sarah's face went blank, and for a moment she didn't say anything.
"I don't know," Jack replied. "I was drunk, and it was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you."
"How could you do this to me?" she finally said, her voice shaking with anger and hurt.
Jack got out of bed and started pacing back and forth.
"I can't believe this," she said. You cheated on me the night before our wedding. How could you do this to us?"
Jack didn't know what to say. He had hoped that telling her the truth would make things better, but he had only made things worse.
As the days of the honeymoon passed, the tension between them grew. They still tried to enjoy the beautiful surroundings, but there was an underlying sense of betrayal and hurt that hung over them like a dark cloud.
After returning from the honeymoon, Jack and Sarah tried to work through the aftermath of the affair.
Sarah was devastated, and Jack felt like he had ruined everything.
They went to couples therapy and tried to talk through their feelings, but the trust between them had been broken.
One day, Sarah received a message from a mutual friend who had attended Jack's bachelor party. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." The message read, "At Jack's bachelor party, he didn't just cheat on you once. He was with multiple women that night."
Sarah was stunned. She couldn't believe that Jack had lied to her, not only about cheating on her, but also about the extent of his infidelity.
She confronted Jack about it.
"Is it true?" she asked, tears streaming down her face. "Did you cheat on me with multiple women?"
Jack hesitated, not knowing what to say. He had hoped that they could move past the initial affair, but now he knew that he had to tell her the truth. "Yes, it's true," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I was a coward for not telling you the truth."
Sarah was livid. She couldn't believe that the man she had loved and trusted had betrayed her so completely. "How could you do this to me?" she yelled. "I can't even look at you right now."
Jack knew that he had messed up, but he was determined to make things right. "I know I screwed up, Sarah," he said, "but please, let me make it up to you. I'll do anything."
Sarah didn't know what to do. "You need to give me some time," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can forgive you for this."
Jack knew that he had a long road ahead of him if he wanted to win back Sarah's trust.
He was determined to do whatever it took to make things right, but he knew that it wouldn't be easy. The revelation of his infidelity had changed everything, and he knew that there was no going back to the way things were before. Sarah had been devastated by Jack's betrayal, but over time she began to feel a different kind of emotion, anger. She couldn't believe that he had cheated on her, lied to her, and put her through so much pain. She began to think about ways to get revenge. At first, Sarah didn't know what to do. She didn't want to stoop to Jack's level, but she also didn't want to let him off the hook for what he had done. One day, she came up with an idea. She began to document everything that Jack had done to her. She saved screenshots of the text messages he had sent to the other women, recorded their phone conversations, and took pictures of the places they had gone together. She wanted to have proof of everything he had done so that she could use it against him if she ever needed to. One day, Sarah got a call from Jack's boss. He told her that Jack had been fired from his job for misconduct with a coworker. Sarah was stunned but not surprised. She knew that Jack's behavior was catching up with him. Feeling emboldened, Sarah decided to put her revenge plan into action. She created a fake social media account and began messaging the other women who had been with Jack. She pretended to be one of his ex-girlfriends and asked them for details about their relationships with him. Some of the women were hesitant to talk, but others were more than happy to share. Sarah compiled all of the information she had gathered and created a website dedicated to exposing Jack's infidelity. She posted screenshots of their conversations, photos of the places they had gone, and even recordings of their phone calls. She made sure to keep her identity hidden, but the website quickly went viral and people began to share it all over social media. Jack was horrified when he found out. He couldn't believe that Sarah had gone to such lengths to get revenge. He begged her to take the website down and promised to do whatever it took to make things right. But Sarah was done with him. She had given him chances to come clean and make amends, but he had only continued to lie and cheat. In the end, Jack lost everything. He lost his job, his friends, and his reputation. Sarah had gotten her revenge, but it wasn't just about hurting him. She had also shown him that his actions had consequences, and that he couldn't continue to treat people the way he had treated her. As for Sarah, she eventually moved on and found someone who truly loved and respected her. But she never forgot what Jack had done to her, and she made sure to always be true to herself, and never let anyone treat her poorly again.